Hello everyone, today it's a bit of a different video as I wanted to go over a game that is over 10 years old, or almost 10 years old. This game was played in 2012, somewhere in October. It was from DreamHack Bucharest 2012, the round of 16, and this is game 3 in a best of 3 between me and TLO. And this is a very special game for me because I just had recently become a pro gamer playing for Fnatic, and I had never won a decent amount of money. I won like $50 here, $75, but if I would win this match, this best of 3 against TLO, I would get $1,000, which at the time, I think it was 18, sounded like an insane amount of money to me. I was just imagining all like the snacks I could buy. There's like 1,000 bags of chips, like that's the currency when you're 18 that your head is in, at least where my head was. Like that's like 1,000 beers basically. It's like, it's crazy. So I was very nervous and very anxious for this series, I recall. And TLO at the time, I think we were pretty close in skill. He was a way bigger name than me, but he was known to be a little cheesy and a little bit, a little bit weird at times. And I had a very special build on this map. So this was Cloud Kingdom, and I had a build order here, so you can see my probe move around, where I would send my first probe across the map, and I would proxy a pylon and a gateway in my opponent's natural immediately. And I wouldn't hide it. I would just put it in their vision. It would block their natural hatchery, which in my mind was absolutely brilliant. I'm like, oh, they can't expand. That means they're going to have crappy eco. And second of all, I thought, I can easily reach the ramp with 3 zealots, which I can hold position there. And when I hold position, my 3 zealots on the ramp, my opponent can't expand whatsoever. So in my mind, this was a foolproof strategy. I played this many times before, and with pretty decent success as well. Like I actually think this build was not bad. Thinking back of it now that I look at all of this, it's like, why would I proxy it on my opponent's natural and not behind his natural? That way I could maybe force out a hatchery first rather than a pool first. As we can see in this game, TLO will take a pool. I think back then Zergs took it at 14 supply and not at 16 because the early game mining worked a little bit different. Yeah, 14 pool. And as the moment his Overlord scouts it. So this made absolutely no sense. And let me tell you that I thought about this build a lot, okay? This was not like I just played this. No, I had like deep thinking sessions in the shower, staying up awake late night in bed, just thinking what would be best. And I remember having this build properly written down as well, and the different options I could take. Like I thought about this build very deeply, and seeing it be this bad is kind of impressive, honestly. Like how dumb was I back then? And also just in general, how bad I was is just painful to watch. It's just, look at this probe movement, for example. Look at this probe. I have nothing to do currently at this moment. I'm not building gases at home. I'm not doing anything. I could just be harassing my opponent's mineral line for free this entire time through. But instead, I'm idling my probe at the ramp. Like, what am I even doing there? It makes zero sense. Like, no sense whatsoever. We also see TLO's drones are just bouncing in between the mineral patches because he's not controlling his workers whatsoever. It's just so funny to see how bad everyone was back then. And this is not to make fun of TLO, but more to make fun of everyone back then. Like, I suck as well. Like I said, it's just, people sometimes say like, hey, if we could get back like one of these top players from back then, like, I don't know, MVP or Rain or whatever, they would dominate everyone. But that's definitely not the case. I mean, they would still probably be good, but they'd need to catch up so much because right now everything is so optimized. The mechanics of players are so high level. I mean, Zergs deciding where to build drones from what hatchery to minimize like walking time, that type of stuff. Trust me, in 2012 we weren't thinking this detail focused. It was way more big picture stuff. A strategy wouldn't be optimized. A strategy would be more like, I build something here and then I hope it works. So TLO, actually, I had never seen this before. He used a drone pool to break my ramp container. This was the first time I'd ever seen something like this. This is why he was considered an absolutely creative genius as well when he did that. I don't even get that dude. He has a spine at home, so he's completely prepared for this, and he runs by with 6 links. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I never prepared for this scenario before. Right now, I would say, well, I could recall, but back then we didn't have recall yet at our Nexus. I start attacking, the spawning pool with my zealots and just moving in and out. This trade, honestly, doesn't make a lot of sense. I have a full wall at home. If I can just deny my opponent's natural, even if he's taking at the third, I think I'm in a completely fine spot. I am not sure why I didn't just do that. Like, my cannon was kind of late, but I'm still going to hold my wall, at least for now. A pretty decent walling, I have to admit. I think I did a good job here. I really do think I did a pretty fine job here. That was some nice walls. Worker count is even. If I hadn't lost my zealots for free, and I could just build another zealot right now to cancel my opponent's third base, or maybe even use an aggressive cannon, that would be such... Like, this is very basic decision making that back then, for whatever reason, I couldn't even think of. This is also painful to watch. I have a probe at the ramp. I guess I didn't want to let my opponent get in with links. But still, just the inefficiency of almost every single move is just painful to watch. So I send out another probe scout. I want to see where his hatchery is. All that good stuff. He takes out slowly but surely my gateway. I also want to kind of draw attention to the fact that this game has gone on for 6 minutes already. And all we have seen so far is a wall being cancelled and a zealot attacking a hatchery and 2 drones. Like, the game was so slow back then. Whenever people talk about the golden days of StarCraft 2, I feel like they've completely forgot about how boring the game was in the first 8 minutes. Like, it's just watching buildings construct. And I love a good building as much as the next person, but yeah, watching just people build buildings is not that impressive, I think. It's not that interesting. And very often the games also ended after a 2-base all-in. Like, it was super all-in-y. So it was like a really long build-up and a very small climax. It really didn't make a lot of sense. My gas is super late, by the way. Cybercore done before my gas finishes. It makes... This is just for a reference, I'd been playing this game for 2.5 years at this point already. I have no clue why I would get my Cybercore before my gases. It makes 0 sense right here. Like, 0. Like, 10 years ago, I was a complete idiot. Honestly. Like, how does it make any... There's nothing that you can build with a cybernetics core in Wings of Liberty that doesn't require gas. There were no batteries back then, so you can't even use it for that. Like, what am I doing? What am I doing with this zealot, by the way? Also, back then, I really only had one strategy, I think, and that was the Immortal all-in. I don't think I ever did anything but an Immortal all-in. So usually I would have a trick in the early game in PvZ, a cannon rush, a proxy gate with 3 zealots, and my follow-up would always be, no matter what would happen, be an Immortal all-in. I was not the best Immortal all-inner, but I was the most frequent Immortal all-inner out of, I think, absolutely everyone in the entire world. Now, there's some Zerg principles that still apply. By the way, TLO taking 2 gases at the same time also is kind of weird. Like, if we think about how economy works in general in StarCraft 2, and it just doesn't make any sense to take a fast 2 gas, I think, in most of the time. What you want to be doing is you want to optimize the resource that gives you more economy. And in StarCraft 2, that is always the mineral. I've talked about this before, but in order to get more eco, you always need minerals. Queens, overlords, drones, hatcheries, same with Protoss, right? Nexus, pylon, assimilators, all require minerals, always. So if you get a very high amount of minerals initially, that just kind of accelerates your eco over time. So seeing people take like really quick 2 gas for whatever reason, while not saturating their minerals yet on one of their bases, doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, a single gas to get certain tech out most of the time is more efficient. Even though he did start with a no gas opener, I still believe if we would go back now in time, we would be seeing a lot more gasless into single gas or single gas into pulling out of gas. Pulling out of gas was a move we hadn't invented yet at that time, I think. I remember when Naniwa and Sase, I think, 2 Swedish players, they lived in Korea together. And what they would do is they would leave, rather than sending 3 probes in the same gas, they would do 2 probes in one gas and 2 probes in the other. And everyone lost their minds about how brilliant this was, like the optimization. And like, I'm pretty sure if you Google hard enough, you can find like a 25-minute rant from Artosis about how brilliant these guys are. It's like, thinking back of it, like, we all just were kind of idiots, incapable of doing... Well, it's not idiots, like, it's just, it kind of evolves over time. You just build on the knowledge of your of the people that came before you. Here I faked. You saw that pylon. It was kind of cool. I faked a zealot rush to force out some units, like a proxy pylon back then. Right now, a Zerg sees a pylon in front of their base. They think cannon rush, or if you build it at 4 minutes, he thinks that I'm beating Grandmaster with stupid stuff. But back then, that had the potential to just warp in 8 zealots and win the game. You know, so a pylon had some real threat around it. Like it was a scary unit. That was not, or a scary building. That was not just giving you supply. Like that had the power to warp in. However, TLO, I just like to once again show that TLO just literally made a freaking tour over my entire base with like a couple of overlords, and I'm just running like half on the map with my stalkers, letting these overlords see absolutely everything. It's just insane to me that I'm not even denying any scouting, because I think that my Immortal is so powerful it doesn't matter. Well, I think one of the biggest concepts as a Protoss, especially back then, is denying scouting. If you can deny your opponent's scout, yeah, life is just going to be way easier. And it's really odd to see yourself make such, honestly, terrible, terrible decisions just the entire time. Just literally, almost every single move is bad. I thought this build was very optimized as well. Like, the way that I thought of build orders back then was really in general concepts. And the way you would create new build orders was just by cutting a build in half and then adding another part in. You know what I mean? It was really just, okay, so I know this, like I know this early game trick. Can I Immortal all in off of this? Or I know this early game trick. Can I go into Void Race from there? Like there was no optimization or flow, at least not that I personally used. I'm sure there were people that at least somewhat tried to optimize, but really optimizing builders wasn't really something I had ever thought about as like a tool. It really was just strategies. You were thinking more in strategies. And now we do strategical thinking. So when you think of a new build, it's like, hey, what is the purpose of the build? What do I try to do with it? And then you optimize it. Because if something is not optimized, no matter how good the idea is these days, it just won't work anymore. So this particular follow-up, this was actually a classic Kevin de Koning, Immortal all in. What I did is I would take a third base, and then I would cancel it and move across the map. It's a bit of a mind game, a terrible mind game. You get a couple of cannons at home as well to make sure run-bys don't hurt you, as leaving any units at home I always considered a huge waste. They just went across the map. And one of the most common things that Zerg would do is just go for a full-on base trade. I mean, at this point, TLO is up 50 workers as well. Or 50 supply, but 50 supply back then, because the Ravager wasn't a thing, wasn't actually that big. It gets a Nidus network. I guess to return home with the Roaches or something like that. I mean, this game, to me, seems completely hopeless at this point. I'm not even quite sure why I'm playing. I should have just left at this point already. So I go up the ramp here. Oh, that's some nice technology from 2012. He starts walling with Evo chambers as well. It's kind of cute, honestly. Getting a lot of spines in his natural. And I start fighting the spines, obviously, like a good boy. But I mean, I'm freaking dead at home as well at the same... actually, supplies are getting pretty close. I'm surprised how good my army is. Guardian shielding through. My Prism is somewhere left behind. Not even sure if I had a hotkey for my Prism back then. I honestly doubt it. I miss a force field on the ramp here. Very impressive as well. I literally have nothing to do. It's not like I'm controlling anything. I killed the Nidus network, which is a good call. That way he can't return back home. He gets 2 infestors. I honestly think if I would have hit the force field on the ramp, that I would have probably been winning extremely hard. Now I finally remember I have a Prism. He gets 2 infestors on the low ground, but I lose absolutely everything, right? So I'm kind of on a timer. I almost lose it into lost my Prism there to a static building. That would have been proper impressive, honestly, if I would have lost that. Look at my 1 Immortal. Look at his reaction time as well. That 1 Immortal kills like 5 roaches. Look at him go. No way. I think he killed 6 roaches with that one. God, we're so bad. Don't forget also how broken the Infestor was back in the day. Infestor was absolutely the most broken piece of crap. Infinite damage, held a unit in position. Yeah, now we start base trading. He's also really slow at getting spines on his third base, by the way. Like, my army's on his side of the map. He's winning the base trade. All he needs to do is hold one base. And he's just mining, building like 5 hatcheries around the map, rather than just building 12 spines at his third. Because with 12 spines at his third, there's no way he's dying, right? But I guess back then, we weren't as... I mean, yeah, it's just fun to make fun of everything back then. We're so bad. Just really sucked. I wish I could go back in time and show myself some tricks, you know? Add a second control group, maybe. For my prism. Tell him some other tricks as well. It's like, yeah, you can do 2 things at the same time, Kevin. Would you look at that? You can hit the force field and control your main army while Immortal editing. Yeah, he's getting a Roadrunner. I think now I tried to micro a little bit with this Immortal prism. Immortals back then were really good because you had this shield as well, which wouldn't allow more than 10 damage to be dealt to shields. So, yeah, GG web, very nice. Very nice GG web out of me. And I lose the game. So, I still didn't win my $1,000. I remember being very sad after this. I don't think this was the first time I was very sad, but... No, actually, this was the first time I was very sad, because I felt like I could beat TLO. I felt like I was about as good as him, but... Yeah, that definitely wasn't the case. Well, that's life. All right, that's it. I actually had a question for some of you guys as well, now that we're here anyway. If you enjoyed me going over like an old game, and you would like me to be capable of doing it with game sounds, and you have any old replays from tournaments, and you know how I can watch them, please send them to my email, harstemsemail@gmail.com. And maybe I can do like some of this for... I thought it would be fun to just watch like a 2011 ZVT or something like that. But watching VODs without game sounds isn't brilliant. So I wanted a bit of a story, so I took my own game. This was, like I said, the Eyes Open from DreamHack Bucharest. Sick. So yeah, if you have any of that, or you have any replays from back then, from a pro level in general, not even any major tournaments, please send them to me, harstemsemail@gmail.com. If I can't just watch them regularly on StarCraft, please also tell me how to do that, or I'll figure it out myself. And otherwise, that's going to be it for today. Thanks all so much for watching. I do appreciate all of you, and hopefully I'll see you all next time as well for a new video. Thank you, and bye-bye.